From the moment you were born, you've been sold illusions. People around you, teachers, friends, family, and even society itself, have convinced you of limitations that don't actually exist. But the cruelest deception isn't even from them. It's from you. You've been lying to yourself, creating barriers in your own head, rehearsing reasons why the life you crave can't possibly be yours. And while you do that, someone else, maybe someone you'll never meet, someone no more intelligent or capable than you, is out there right now living the exact life you swore was unreachable. They're receiving the recognition you've been silently craving. They're walking into rooms and effortlessly commanding the space while you shrink into corners, trying not to disturb the air. They're building the empire you keep daydreaming about while you distract yourself scrolling through endless feeds at 2 a.m., staring at other people's success and feeling that heavy ache deep inside your chest. You know that ache. It's the same restless voice that keeps you awake, whispering, "When is it finally going to be my chance?" I used to torture myself with that same question. I used to watch people who weren't even half as prepared as me step into doors that never seemed to open for me. I'd burn with confusion seeing mediocrity celebrated while I was stuck begging to prove my worth, explaining myself to people who couldn't even recognize brilliance if it sat right in front of them. I carried that anger, sharp, white-hot rage, when I realized the game I was playing was designed for me to lose. But then something shifted. A revelation cracked through the fog. The game isn't fixed against you the way you think. The truth is you were simply playing it wrong. You were taught the wrong strategies. While you were told to play nice, to be polite, to wait patiently for your turn, others were busy learning how influence really works. While you were being praised for being agreeable and likable, they were mastering the language of power, studying the science of persuasion, and hardening their confidence until it was unshakable. And while you kept apologizing for existing, they were silently taking up the space you kept giving away. Here's the secret. Most people don't want you to uncover. The reason you're not where you want to be isn't because you're unworthy, incapable, or unlucky. It's because you're still waiting for permission that will never come. You're seeking validation from people who have no intention of granting it. You're abiding by rules written by people who profit from keeping you stuck exactly where you are. But what if you stopped waiting? What if you refused to play by their script? What if, instead of shrinking into the role of someone else's approval seeker, you finally stepped into the role of the architect of your own rise? That's the turning point. And once you cross it, life bends in ways you never thought possible. Because the truth is, those who get everything they desire aren't necessarily the smartest or most talented. They're the ones who understand and wield a set of psychological principles that most people remain blind to. These principles are not abstract theories or motivational slogans. They are precise tactical tools rooted in human behavior and perception. And once you learn to apply them, you don't just think differently. You walk, talk, and command space differently. You begin to exist on another level entirely. So let's walk through them, starting with the first. Your words can be your greatest weakness. I had to learn this the hard way. I was 23, sitting in a conference room surrounded by individuals who earned more in 1 month than I did in a year. I was so desperate to prove I belonged that I couldn't keep quiet. I filled every pause with nervous jokes, rushed answers, and forced commentary. I thought that the more I spoke, the more valuable I'd appear. But I was embarrassingly wrong. The most powerful man in the room barely said a dozen words the entire meeting. And yet, every time he opened his mouth, people leaned forward like disciples awaiting scripture. His questions shifted the entire room. His silence made others squirm until they revealed far more than they intended. That day, I realized something crucial. Your mouth can be your biggest enemy. Every unnecessary word is free information you're giving away. Every justification exposes a weakness. Every time you rush to fill silence, you silently announce that your comfort matters more than your authority. Silence unsettles people because it forces them to face their own thoughts. And when you stop frantically filling the air, something extraordinary happens. Others start projecting onto you. They assume your quiet confidence hides depth, judgment, and strength. They imagine you're seeing straight through their masks. And in many ways you are. When you're talking, you're being dissected. When you're quiet, you're doing the dissecting. Machiavelli once observed that everyone sees what you present, but only a few understand who you truly are. Silence is the stage on which people perform their insecurities. They reveal their weaknesses while you conserve your power. That's when you stop being just another participant in the room and start becoming the person everyone subconsciously wants to impress. I started practicing this deliberately. Instead of rushing to prove I was smart, I let others expose their flaws. Instead of trying to dominate the conversation, I dictated its rhythm by choosing when my words actually deserved attention. The difference was instant and undeniable. People began chasing my opinion instead of me desperately offering it. They started valuing my approval precisely because I stopped giving it away freely, and they began wondering what was on my mind because I no longer felt the need to dump it all out loud. Silence isn't absence, it's authority. The one who can sit comfortably in quiet while others squirm is the one who actually controls the room. Now let's move to the second principle. Your emotions are not the truth. They are signals. A few years back, someone I trusted completely betrayed me. They didn't steal money. They didn't physically harm me. Instead, they weaponized my vulnerability. They took my private confessions and twisted them into entertainment for a group of people whose respect I valued. I sat there humiliated, my throat burning, my chest heavy. My instinct was to explode, to defend myself, to scream, to force them to see how much damage they had caused. But something stopped me. Instead of reacting, I stayed still, silent. That's when I realized something life-altering. Feelings are not facts. Emotions are temporary chemical reactions, not verdicts. They are data points, not definitions. And if you can pause long enough to observe them, rather than instantly act on them, you gain an entirely new kind of power. In that moment, my silence wasn't weakness. It was control. While my betrayer exposed their pettiness, I showed my strength. They revealed their character, and I revealed my discipline. True emotional mastery isn't about suppressing feelings or becoming robotic. It's about recognizing that reactions are choices, not reflexes. When someone tries to provoke you, you don't flare up. You study them. When someone betrays you, you don't collapse. You take notes. When someone pushes your buttons, you don't give them the satisfaction of control. You watch them exhaust themselves against your composure. And here's the life-changing part. Once you stop being manipulated by your own emotions, you begin reading everyone else's emotions as open books. Their anger at your boundary isn't proof that you're wrong. It's proof that the boundary was necessary. Their guilt-tripping isn't evidence you're selfish. It's evidence that your ambition threatens their comfort. Emotional stability makes you a fortress that cannot be shaken. And that's exactly why people begin looking to you as a leader when storms hit. Now to the third principle. Guard your information like treasure. For most of my life, I thought openness equaled honesty, and honesty equaled strength. I shared my struggles with anyone who asked. I poured my dreams out to casual acquaintances. I confessed my fears and insecurities, thinking it made me real. But I learned the painful way that overexposure is not connection. It's weakness. Everything I revealed became ammunition against me. My struggles turned into gossip. My dreams became punchlines. My fears were weaponized. Information is power. Not money, not titles, not even skill. Power lies in who has information, who needs it, and who controls its flow. Every conversation is an exchange of intelligence. You're either gathering or giving. But most people give it away thoughtlessly, unaware they're handing out classified documents for free. Scarcity breeds value. Mystery breeds respect. When you treat your inner world like a classified file, you instantly raise your perceived worth. People respect what they don't fully understand. They admire what they cannot easily access. From that day forward, I stopped being an open book. Not because I had anything to hide, but because I finally understood that privacy is power. The less people know about your internal process, the more they're forced. Instead, you begin moving like someone who doesn't play by the rules written for them, but writes their own rules and bends reality around them. Because here's the truth. The world doesn't reward the person who's most deserving. It rewards the person who understands influence, who controls perception, who wields silence, composure, and mystery like weapons sharper than any blade. Once you embody that, you stop waiting for your turn. You stop being a spectator in someone else's empire. You become the architect of your own. Consider the most influential people you know. How much do you truly understand about their internal world? the struggles they endure privately, the meticulous planning behind their decisions, the emotional fluctuations they experience daily. Almost nothing. That lack of knowledge isn't accidental. It's intentional. They grasp a fundamental truth. When no one fully understands the process by which you achieve results, the only option left for them is to respect that you can achieve them. As Machiavelli once observed, the wise man acts immediately, while the fool hesitates until the last moment. In life, the majority of people reveal their entire hand only under pressure, leaving themselves exposed to judgment, risk, and exploitation. You, however, have the chance to be deliberate and intentional about what, when, and to whom you disclose details of your life. Your personal challenges, strategies, and future moves are privileges to be shared sparingly, not entitlements to hand over freely. But awareness of what you share is only one side of the equation. Equally critical is understanding what you gather. Observe what people reveal when they assume you're inattentive, when they're trying to impress, justify themselves, or win sympathy. If you pay attention, you'll discover that people unknowingly hand you everything necessary to understand their inner workings. Complaints reveal vulnerabilities. Boasts disclose strategies. Excuses betray fears. This is not manipulation. It's mindfulness. It is attentiveness, the ability to transform observation into understanding. With this knowledge, you can align yourself with opportunities, anticipate challenges, and craft solutions that serve both your objectives and theirs. Control the flow of information, and you gain control over choices. Control choices, and you gain influence over outcomes. Information is most potent when deployed precisely at the right moment, neither hoarded for its own sake nor squandered thoughtlessly. When mastered, it allows you to predict others' actions, navigating life with a clarity few ever experience. Next, consider the power of competence. I spent years believing that being amiable and agreeable was the path to job security. I made myself approachable, accommodating, and helpful, avoiding conflict while hoping recognition would follow. I mistakenly thought that being liked equated to being indispensable. And yet repeatedly, people less pleasant but markedly more capable were promoted ahead of me. That's when the truth became undeniable. Likability is not a substitute for ability. Being agreeable makes you pleasant, but it doesn't make you necessary. Being easy to work with may make others comfortable, but it does not guarantee opportunity. Real leverage comes from being irreplaceably competent. When your skills, knowledge, and impact are so critical that removing you imposes a significant cost, your value becomes inescapable. Boundaries, assertiveness, and refusal to accept mediocrity become natural extensions of your power, not points of conflict. Becoming irreplaceable requires intentionality. It demands more than completing tasks. It requires mastery of your field, anticipation of unseen problems, and solutions that prevent crises before they emerge. This kind of excellence often involves challenging conventions, proposing new systems, and risking mistakes for the chance of extraordinary outcomes. Few pursue it because it demands courage, discipline, and the willingness to be wrong temporarily in the pursuit of long-term mastery. But when achieved, the effects are transformative. Colleagues who once dismissed you now seek your insight. Opportunities flow to you without effort. Your value becomes undeniable, and external opinions fade in significance because results speak louder than critique. When competence is irrefutable, confidence follows naturally. It no longer requires construction or performance. This is the foundation upon which all other forms of influence and authority are built. Equally important is learning to stop defending yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Years ago, I left a secure position to pursue a path that seemed reckless to those around me. Family members questioned my judgment. Friends predicted failure. Colleagues whispered about my decisions. Initially, I attempted to explain myself, laying out financial projections, strategic reasoning, and long-term plans. But I quickly realized it was futile. Those people had already defined my value through their fears and biases. Their perception of me was not rooted in reality, but in their need to feel superior or comfortable. Some individuals are not confused about you. They are invested in keeping you confined to their version of reality. Convincing them otherwise is impossible. Your energy is finite. And every second spent defending yourself against the fixed perceptions of others is energy diverted from growth, innovation, and the pursuit of meaningful achievements. By refusing to justify your decisions to those committed to misunderstanding you, you free yourself to invest in relationships and projects that truly appreciate your value, amplifying impact while minimizing wasted effort. This principle dovetails seamlessly into the notion of building systems rather than dependencies. Many of us equate freedom with the absence of oversight or obligation, imagining that liberation means escaping structure entirely. In truth, freedom is not chaos. It is the presence of structures that serve you rather than others. Real independence arises when your results, your financial stability, and your personal growth are not contingent upon the approval, mood, or participation of others. Systems ensure that progress continues regardless of external validation or circumstance. They generate outcomes whether anyone is watching and maintain value even if others fail to acknowledge it. Contrast this with the common scenario. Most people tether their security, identity, and self-worth to others' decisions, schedules, and approvals, constructing elaborate networks of dependency while labeling it connection. True liberation is achieved when you design frameworks that operate autonomously, creating leverage and momentum that cannot be compromised by the unpredictability of external influence. Building systems requires foresight and discipline. It demands that you anticipate processes, create repeatable mechanisms, and design environments where success is not dependent on approval or intervention. This is the essence of leverage. It is the ability to extract maximum impact with minimal reliance on variables outside your control. When mastered, it allows you to direct your energy strategically, amplifying influence without unnecessary friction. People tethered to others' whims remain reactive. Those with systems are proactive, dictating pace and outcomes rather than merely responding to circumstances. Another pivotal lesson is the art of making your presence felt without oversharing, demonstrating your influence without over-explaining, and communicating your value without pleading for acknowledgement. The most powerful individuals rarely broadcast the details of their strategies or struggles. They create a sense of gravity and respect by simply existing with consistent competence, poise, and discretion. When others are left uncertain about how you navigate challenges or make decisions, they are compelled to recognize your skill and authority. This is an intentional practice, a form of subtle control that transforms perception into influence. Mystery and selectivity are not manipulative. They are essential tools for maintaining strategic advantage in any environment. This dovetails naturally into emotional mastery. Emotional responses, while natural, should be recognized as data rather than destiny. Betrayal, insult, or provocation are chemical reactions, temporary surges in the brain, and responding impulsively hands power to others. By observing and choosing your responses, you maintain influence and control. Emotional resilience transforms chaos into clarity. When others are destabilized, your composure becomes the anchor. When people act out of fear, envy, or insecurity, your calm signals authority, stability, and reliability. This is not suppression of emotion. It is the deliberate allocation of energy toward outcomes rather than reflexive reactions. The individual who can remain poised while others spiral possesses a silent but undeniable authority. A leadership recognized instinctively even when unspoken, control of perception, mastery of emotion, and the cultivation of irreplaceable competence converge in the strategic management of relationships. Not every connection merits your attention. Not every opinion requires engagement. People who are committed to seeing you through a lens of limitation do so to reinforce their own sense of adequacy. Allowing them to dictate your perception of self is surrendering power. Conversely, directing your energy toward individuals who are invested in mutual growth multiplies opportunity and accelerates advancement. Focus, discernment, and selective engagement become powerful levers of influence. Ultimately, the principles converge on a common theme. You are the architect of your reality. You determine what is shared, what is withheld, how competence is demonstrated, and where energy is invested. Freedom, influence, and authority are byproducts of intentional design, disciplined execution, and strategic awareness. The individual who masters information, emotional composure, irreplaceable skill, and selective engagement becomes immune to the limitations others attempt to impose. This is not a promise of effortless success, but a blueprint for navigating complexity with precision, creating outcomes on your terms, and commanding respect without surrendering identity. The path is neither easy nor guaranteed, but it is measurable and actionable. Every decision, every action, every interaction represents a choice. To participate passively in the structures imposed by others, or to assertively construct frameworks that serve your objectives. By internalizing these principles, you transform from a reactive participant in life's processes to a proactive director, orchestrating outcomes, creating opportunities, and building influence that is self-sustaining. The disciplined execution of these ideas compounds over time, generating momentum that is difficult to disrupt and impossible to ignore. The choice is clear. Continue relying on external validation, over-explaining yourself and reacting to circumstances, or adopt a deliberate approach that prioritizes strategic information management, emotional autonomy, irreplaceable competence, selective engagement, and systemic independence. When you choose the latter, you step into a life where opportunity is generated, influence is earned, and respect is automatic rather than demanded. The transformation is gradual but profound. Each principle reinforces the others, creating a foundation of personal power, operational autonomy, and strategic advantage. Applied consistently, these ideas not only redefine professional trajectory, but reshape personal identity, self-perception, and the nature of relationships. In essence, success and influence are not products of luck or innate talent. They are the result of intentional, disciplined application of psychological, strategic, and operational principles. Mastery of self, mastery of information, mastery of competence, mastery of emotion, and mastery of systems creates an environment where opportunity, respect, and impact are inevitable outcomes. The individual who internalizes these lessons gains freedom from dependence, protection against manipulation, and the ability to dictate the terms of engagement in any sphere of life. Power, influence, and autonomy are the natural consequence of living with precision, awareness, and unwavering commitment to excellence. Relying on others for consistency is a precarious way to live. When your stability, income, or emotional well-being depends on someone else showing up reliably, you are effectively borrowing life from people who can revoke access to it at any moment. I learned this lesson the hardest way imaginable when every single pillar I thought I could depend on collapsed simultaneously. A career I believed was unshakable vanished overnight. A relationship I assumed would last forever ended abruptly, leaving me reeling. Friends I had considered steadfast revealed their priorities only when their support became inconvenient. Within a single, harrowing month, I was forced to confront a harsh truth. What I had assumed was mine, in reality, had been on loan all along. That period of upheaval was transformative because it compelled me to ask a question that ultimately reshaped my entire approach to life. What would my existence look like if it depended entirely on me? If no one else's approval, participation, or reliability was required for me to thrive. Independence, as Machiavelli pointed out, comes with a cost. Everyone desires freedom and autonomy, but few are willing to endure the temporary discomfort and delayed gratification necessary to construct it. Most people want the results without the discipline, the comfort without the structure, the control without the responsibility. But true sovereignty requires the willingness to think in longer timelines than most are prepared to tolerate. It requires developing multiple sources of income instead of depending on a single paycheck. It requires acquiring skills that are transferable across contexts, rather than tethered to one organization's training. It requires building internal systems of validation instead of leaning on external praise. And it requires structuring your time according to your priorities rather than someone else's calendar. This isn't selfishness. It's strategic foresight. It isn't isolation. It's intentional self-reliance. When you establish systems, you engage with the world from a position of choice, not necessity. You collaborate with autonomy, commit with clarity, and participate without surrendering control. The results of adopting this mindset were immediate and profound. I stopped fearing the moods of others because my emotional equilibrium no longer depended on their approval. I stopped fearing financial instability because I possessed multiple streams of income and marketable, portable skills. I stopped fearing relational shifts because my self-worth was not contingent on someone else's presence. Systems cultivate options. Options cultivate power. Power cultivates freedom. When you possess these frameworks, you no longer tolerate disrespect, accept inequitable treatment, or compromise your principles for temporary security. You can exit situations that fail to serve you, confident that alternatives exist. Dependencies make you negotiable. Systems make you sovereign. Every day spent building someone else's framework is a day wasted in terms of building your own. The choice to prioritize your independence is urgent. The longer you wait, the more of your life you loan out to others. Equally crucial is embracing strategic ruthlessness. This is where distinction is made between those who merely fantasize about influence and those who seize it. Strategic ruthlessness separates the people who consume inspirational content from those who make calculated choices that tangibly reshape their lives. Most people fail at this because they are unwilling to confront the reality of what power demands. 3 years ago, I had to remove a lifelong friend from my life. We had shared experiences, dreams, and countless hours of companionship. But over time, our trajectories diverged. I was growing, creating, building, while they were stagnating, complaining, and draining my energy. Conversations devolved into their complaints and justifications, with the implicit expectation that I would solve the problems they refused to address. Initially, I excused their behavior, equating loyalty with enabling. I devoted my time, energy, and emotional bandwidth to their issues because I had confused compassion with indulgence. Eventually, I realized that every minute invested in their drama was a minute stolen from my growth, from my goals, and from the people who truly deserved my attention. Strategic ruthlessness does not equate to cruelty. It is not exercising dominance for personal gratification or taking more than necessary. It is a disciplined prioritization of your objectives over others' comfort, of your evolution over the preservation of outdated expectations, and of your reality over the illusions others maintain about who you are. Mastery. Individuals who achieve extraordinary outcomes are rarely more talented, luckier, or better connected than the average person. They simply make decisions that others hesitate to make. They embrace temporary discomfort, tolerate the short-term displeasure of those around them, and consistently prioritize long-term impact over immediate gratification. By integrating strategic ruthlessness into your life, you transition from being reactive, responding to life's pressures, to being proactive, designing the trajectory of your existence. This principle pairs seamlessly with the recognition of your intrinsic worth. You are not flawed, behind, or deficient. You are not too old, too inexperienced, or too damaged to claim the life you are capable of living. Society has conditioned you to believe that the pursuit of respect, success, recognition, or influence is somehow greedy, selfish, or inappropriate. You have been programmed to see ambition as arrogance, boundaries as obstruction, and self-prioritization as selfishness. These beliefs are deliberately constructed to keep individuals manageable, predictable, and easily influenced. Recognizing this is liberating. You can discard these false constraints and reclaim the power that has always been yours. The foundation of your personal sovereignty rests upon several interconnected truths. You are not obligated to be liked to be comfortable, or to prioritize others' comfort over your own potential. Your purpose is not to accommodate mediocrity. It is to cultivate excellence, mastery, and presence. Becoming unforgettable is not a product of attention-seeking or drama. It is the result of cultivating deep expertise, strategic foresight, emotional intelligence, and systemic independence. These qualities create a gravitational effect. Your presence alone alters the dynamic of any room, organization, or interaction. The journey is not about adopting a persona. It is about uncovering the person you were always meant to be beneath layers of conditioning, fear, and societal expectation. Many people wait their entire lives for permission, from bosses, partners, family, or society, to pursue the life they desire. But permission is neither granted nor earned. It is claimed. Real authority and power are asserted, not requested. When you stop seeking validation from those invested in limiting your growth and start investing in your own capabilities, the dynamic shifts. You become the arbiter of your trajectory, the author of your influence, and the architect of your freedom. You do not need to declare your transformation. It manifests naturally through action, consistency, and the quality of your presence. Those meant to remain in your life will adjust, thrive, and strengthen. Opportunities aligned with your path will recognize you before you even recognize them. Those who fail to align were never intended to be part of your journey. Independence, competence, and strategic ruthlessness converge to form a life that is resilient, impactful, and self-directed. Dependencies make you negotiable. Systems make you sovereign. Emotional mastery ensures that chaos does not dictate outcomes. Strategic ruthlessness ensures that your resources, time, energy, attention, are invested where they yield the highest return. Competence makes you irreplaceable. Information control makes you omniscient in your interactions. Each of these principles reinforces the others, creating a network of leverage that compounds over time. This network empowers you to walk through life with confidence, discretion, and authority, making decisions from a position of choice rather than necessity. Rejection is not an obstacle, but a revelation. It exposes where you have remained loyal to weakness, to fear, or to outdated obligations. The truth is untouchable. You were never broken. You were never behind. You were never too late. Your desire for achievement, respect, and autonomy is natural and deserved. The societal narratives designed to diminish ambition, discourage boundaries, and vilify self-prioritization are false. Once you recognize this, you can remove the chains of expectation and claim the life you are capable of building. Your capacity for influence, achievement, and resilience has always been present. It only required conscious recognition to activate. The ultimate lesson is clear. Your life is yours to shape. Permission is obsolete. Validation is optional. Power is not granted. It is asserted. Competence is cultivated, ruthlessness is calculated, systems are constructed, and independence is claimed. By mastering these principles, you transition from being reactive to proactive, from dependent to sovereign, and from constrained to untouchable. Your presence, skill, and strategy will speak louder than any explanation, opinion, or external judgment. The people, opportunities, and experiences meant for you will align naturally. The rest were never yours to claim. They were placeholders until you were ready to step into your full authority. This moment marks the turning point. You stop seeking permission. You stop over-explaining. You stop diluting your focus for those who cannot recognize value. You start building systems, mastering competence, practicing strategic ruthlessness, and asserting independence. You begin designing a life in which influence, respect, and opportunity are inevitable outcomes of deliberate action. You move from the realm of wishful thinking into the domain of execution, impact, and legacy. You are untouchable, not because you demand it, but because your presence, decisions, and competence render it undeniable. The question that remains is simple. Are you ready to stop pretending you cannot? Are you prepared to claim the life, influence, and freedom that have always been within your reach? You do not need volume or dramatics. You only need presence, consistency, and mastery. Begin now. Stop waiting. Stop borrowing life from others. Build systems, enforce boundaries, and cultivate irreplaceable competence. The world will notice, not because you announce it, but because it is impossible to ignore. True power, autonomy, and respect are self-asserted, and they are yours to claim.